9 people are dead in 90 seconds in a restaurant parking lot on a Sunday afternoon while families ate lunch 20 feet away. 177 people arrested in a single afternoon, the biggest mass biker arrest in American history. And here's the part nobody told you. Every single charge eventually collapsed. All 177 gone. Because the real story of what happened in Waco and the club at the center of it is nothing like you saw on the news. What I'm about to show you is 50 years of loyalty, blood, betrayal, and a brotherhood that became something its own founder never intended. And by the end of this video, you're going to have to decide what you really think about them. To understand the Bandidos, you have to go back to a bar in Houston, Texas, March 4th, 1966. A man named Donald Eugene Chambers walks in. He's a dock worker, a Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart, the kind of guy who saw things overseas that would break most people and came home to find out that nobody wanted to hear about it. Now think about what 1966 America looked like for a man like Chambers. The guys who fought in World War II, they came home to ticker tape parades, the GI Bill, a grateful nation that called them heroes and meant it. Vietnam vets, they got spit on at airports, called baby killers. Many came back addicted, traumatized, invisible, and completely disposable to the country that sent them there. So Don Chambers didn't start the Bandidos because he wanted trouble. He started them because society had already thrown him away, and he decided to build something society couldn't touch. The rules were simple. You ride, you fight for your brothers, you never betray the patch, and you answer to nobody. Within 2 years, the Bandidos had chapters across Texas. By the mid-1970s, they were in Louisiana, Mississippi, New Mexico. By the 1980s, they had chapters in Australia, then France, Germany, Scandinavia, Southeast Asia. Imagine looking at a world map and seeing their patch on 5 continents. That's not a motorcycle club anymore. That's an empire. And what most people don't realize? This empire was built by men who felt like they had nothing left to lose. That combination, tight brotherhood, zero fear of consequences, and a burning sense that the system already failed them, is one of the most powerful forces in human history. It built the Bandidos, and it's exactly what made them so dangerous. But here's the question nobody asks. Was Don Chambers proud of what they became? Because what happened next, what the Bandidos turned into, might not have been what he had in mind at all. By the 1980s, the Bandidos were international, and they weren't small time anymore. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Canada's version of the FBI, officially classified the Bandidos as one of the Big Four. That's the 4 most powerful outlaw motorcycle organizations on the planet. The Big Four. Think of them like the 4 most powerful crime families in a city, except instead of one city, they're spread across the entire world. And just like crime families, they hate each other. The Hells Angels and the Bandidos in particular have been at war, sometimes cold, sometimes very hot, for decades. Different continents, same grudge. Europol, the European Union's law enforcement agency, estimated the Bandidos' global membership somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 active members. To put that in perspective, that's larger than the active duty military of several small nations. Now, I want to be straight with you here. A lot of what we know about the internal politics of these clubs comes from court testimony, law enforcement informants, and journalists who got close enough to see pieces of the picture. Nobody has the whole truth. These aren't organizations that take minutes at their meetings and post them online. So when I tell you about what happened inside the Bandidos, understand we're working with the best available information, But what we do know, what is documented, what went through a full court trial with evidence and testimony, is one of the most disturbing events in motorcycle club history. And it didn't involve a rival club. It involved the Bandidos themselves. April 8, 2006, a farmer in Shedden, Ontario, a tiny town about 2 hours southwest of Toronto, makes a discovery that stops him cold. 8 bodies in a row of abandoned cars on his property. 8 men, all shot, all wearing Bandidos patches. 8 members of the Bandidos Toronto chapter killed by their own club. This wasn't a hit from the Hells Angels. This wasn't a war with a rival. This was Bandidos killing Bandidos. Their own brothers drove them out to a farm in the middle of winter and executed them. Let that sit for a second. Now, why did it happen? This is where it gets complicated, because there are 2 very different versions of this story depending on who you ask. From the national leadership's point of view, at least what came out during the trial, the Toronto chapter had become a liability. Some members had serious drug habits. Some were suspected of talking to people they shouldn't have been talking to. The leadership felt the chapter had lost discipline, lost control, so they made a decision not to disband the chapter, not to strip their patches and kick them out, to eliminate them. From law enforcement's perspective, the Shedden massacre was proof they'd been right all along. This wasn't a social club that occasionally broke the law. This was a criminal organization that occasionally rode motorcycles. 8 men were murdered to protect an empire. But criminologist Stephen Schneider, who spent years studying organized crime in Canada, offered a third take that most people miss completely. He argued the massacre actually showed the Bandidos' weakness, not their strength. Think about it. A truly powerful, well-run organization doesn't need to slaughter an entire chapter. You slaughter a chapter when you've already lost control of it, when fear has replaced respect. The Shedden massacre wasn't the Bandidos at their most powerful. It was the Bandidos starting to break. And right there, that's the key to everything that came after. But if you think Shedden was the moment everything fell apart for the Bandidos, you haven't heard about Waco yet. Because what happened in that parking lot on a Sunday afternoon in 2015 didn't just change the Bandidos, it changed American law. It changed how biker clubs operate, and it exposed something about law enforcement that most people still don't know. Here's what actually happened.
May 17, 2015. The Texas Confederation of Clubs and Independents has scheduled a regional meeting. This is supposed to be a political meeting. Biker rights, lobbying, legislative issues, the kind of meeting clubs hold all the time. Multiple clubs were invited. Multiple clubs showed up. 2 of them should not have been in the same parking lot. The Bandidos and the Cossacks, a Texas-based club, had been building toward a confrontation for months. The Cossacks had been expanding into territory the Bandidos considered theirs. They'd been wearing a Texas bottom rocker on their patches, which in the MC world is a declaration. It's saying, "This state belongs to us." And the Bandidos had been saying that about Texas since 1966. Here's something the news coverage mostly skipped. The Waco police already knew this was coming. Undercover officers were inside the restaurant before the bikers arrived. SWAT teams were staged nearby. The police weren't caught off guard, they were waiting, which makes what happened next even harder to explain. Within minutes of the Cossacks arriving, a fight broke out. It started in the parking lot, moved inside, then back outside. Knives came out, chains, then guns. 9 people died, 20 were injured, 177 people were arrested. Now here's the number that tells you everything about what came next. $1 million. That was the bond set for every single person arrested. $1 million each, across the board. No individual assessment. no consideration of whether the person was actually involved in the fight. You were at Twin Peaks that day, $1 million. Some of these people were sitting inside eating when the shooting started. They ran outside to see what was happening. They were arrested along with everyone else. Think about what that means in real life. You're at a meeting. A fight breaks out outside that you have nothing to do with. Police arrest everyone present. Your face is on every news channel in America. You're labeled a biker gang member. You can't make $1 million bond, so you sit in jail for months in some cases while your family falls apart outside. And then, 4 years later, the charges just disappear. As of April 2019, every single remaining charge from the Waco Twin Peaks shooting had been dismissed. All 177 cases, gone. The DA's office couldn't make them stick. The evidence was a disaster from day one. They'd arrested everyone in the building using a single identical affidavit, just changing the names, which legal experts called one of the most blatant due process violations in modern Texas history. And the ballistics. This is the part that should have been front-page news and wasn't. Forensic analysis showed that at least 4 of the 9 people killed that day were killed by police bullets, not biker weapons, police bullets. 4 of the 9 dead. Now here's where the perspectives split completely apart. From the Bandidos side, this was a setup. Law enforcement wanted a confrontation. They let it happen, maybe helped it happen, because it gave them the justification they needed for a nationwide crackdown on the club. From law enforcement side, 2 armed criminal organizations were heading for a collision. Officers were there to protect the public, and without their presence, the body count would have been far higher. From the legal community, regardless of what you think about outlaw motorcycle clubs, what happened at Waco represents a failure of basic constitutional protections. The ACLU, defense attorneys, legal scholars, people who had absolutely no sympathy for biker clubs, looked at those identical affidavits and those $1 million bonds and said, this is not how justice is supposed to work. The truth about Waco probably lives somewhere between all 3 of those positions, and the fact that we still can't find it almost 10 years later tells you something important. Some stories don't have clean endings, and this one is far from over. Because while the Waco cases were falling apart in court, the federal government was building something much bigger against the Bandidos, something that wouldn't fall apart. Jeffrey Fay Pike, the national president of the Bandidos, is sentenced to 2 life terms plus 20 years. His vice president, John Xavier Portillo, same sentence, 2 life terms. They were convicted under RICO. Now, if you've heard that word and never been quite sure what it means, here's the plain version. RICO stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's the law that was originally designed to take down the American mafia, and the way it works is almost elegant in how devastating it is. Normally, to convict someone of a crime, you have to prove they personally committed that crime. RICO changes that. Under RICO, if you're part of an organization and that organization commits crimes as a pattern of doing business, you can be held responsible for crimes you never personally touched. So if you're the national president of the Bandidos and chapters in 3 different states are running drugs and extorting businesses, and the government can show that's just how the Bandidos operate, you can go to prison for it, even if you never personally sold a gram of anything. It turns the club's own structure into a weapon against itself. The tighter the Brotherhood, the more powerful the RICO case becomes. Now, is that fair? This is where historians and criminologists genuinely disagree, and I think it's worth hearing both sides honestly. James Quinn, a criminologist at the University of North Texas, who spent years studying outlaw motorcycle culture, argued that RICO is being applied too broadly to motorcycle clubs. His argument goes like this: RICO was designed for tightly structured criminal enterprises, the Cosa Nostra, where the boss at the top literally gives orders for murders to happen at the bottom. Motorcycle clubs, Quinn says, are much more loosely organized. Members make their own decisions. The national president isn't running a crime board. He's running a fraternal organization that some of its members happen to use for criminal purposes. Apply RICO to that, Quinn argued, and you're punishing people for their associations, not their actions. The ATF agents who built the Pike case see it completely differently. They'd point to the dues structure, the mandatory meeting attendance, the territory rules, the way chapters are required to get national approval for major decisions. That's not a loose fraternity. That's a chain of command. And when that chain of command enables crime, previously, systematically, across state lines, RICO is exactly the right tool. Put yourself in the shoes of a rank-and-file bandito for a second. You joined because you love motorcycles. You wanted brothers. Maybe you've never broken a law more serious than a speeding ticket, but your national president, a man you've met once at a rally, was running a criminal operation 3 states away. 5 a.m., your front door comes off its hinges. Federal agents pour in. Your wife is screaming. Your kids are crying. Your neighbors are watching from their driveways. And the government says you're part of a criminal enterprise. Is that justice? Or is that a sledgehammer being used where a scalpel would do? I'm not going to give you an easy answer, because there isn't one.
What I will tell you is this. The men who signed up because they wanted brotherhood, because they wanted the thing Don Chambers built in that Houston bar, ended up paying for decisions made by people above them, people they may never have even met. And Don Chambers himself, he got out of prison in 1983 after serving 11 years for that 1972 murder conviction. He lived quietly after that, stayed away from the spotlight, watched the club he founded become something global and powerful and complicated. He died in 1999. Whether he was proud of what the Bandidos became or horrified by it, nobody alive can tell you for certain. And honestly, that uncertainty might be the most honest part of this entire story. So here's what 50 years of Bandidos history actually teaches us. It's not what you think. It's not a simple story about criminals on motorcycles. It's not a simple story about brotherhood and loyalty either. It's a story about what happens when people feel discarded by society and decide to build their own. Don Chambers felt thrown away, so he built something that couldn't be thrown away, something with rules, with loyalty, with consequences. And the thing he built outlasted him, grew beyond him, spread to 20 countries, attracted thousands of men who felt exactly what he felt, that the world had no place for them, so they'd make their own place. But here's the part that stays with me. The same force that built the Bandidos, that absolute refusal to bend to anyone, is the same force that led to 8 bodies in a Canadian snowfield, that led to a parking lot in Waco turning into a crime scene, that led to a national president spending the rest of his life in federal prison. The strength and the destruction came from the exact same place. And that's not unique to motorcycle clubs. That's human nature. Every organization, every government, every corporation, every family carries that same tension inside it. The thing that holds you together can become the thing that tears you apart. The rules that protect you can become the rules that trap you. The Bandidos just lived that tension at full volume. No filter, no apology. So here's the question I keep coming back to. Can a brotherhood survive its own darkness? Or does the darkness eventually become the brotherhood? I think you already know what you believe. So prove it. Drop Brotherhood or Blood in the comments right now and tell me why. And if this story hit you, if you want to go even deeper, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. I'll see you on the road.